Hey everybody, this is Nick with Twisted Wrister Hockey, and welcome to my first video in a month if you've been keeping up. I'm sorry I've been away for a while. I've been getting used to my new job, but I won't bore you with any details about that. I'm back to making videos. Here we go. I'm wearing the LA Kings jersey that Vesper Hockey had sent over to me. If you watched that video, that was a really fun surprise, wasn't it now? Well, anyway, speaking of the LA Kings, they're off to kind of an underwhelming start, let's just say. John Stevens is now out. And so I thought to myself, well, what is the craziest thing I would do if a team won the Stanley Cup? So I thought about my rivals. I thought, okay, the Ducks and the Golden Knights. What's something I can do that would be entertaining for the channel? Something that's kind of relevant to that franchise. And so I've kind of put together a list of my Stanley Cup bets for 2019. So I'm going to go through each team. In the comments below, be sure and let me know what's the craziest thing that you would do for your favorite team if they actually won the Stanley Cup. I'd be curious to see what fans out there thought. And without further ado, everybody, let's go. I'm gonna actually start though by grouping three teams together. So for the Coyotes, for the Hurricanes, and for the Islanders. If any of these teams wins the Stanley Cup, I am saying now that I will actually fly out and go see that Stanley Cup parade wearing a jersey of that team. So, I mean, the Islanders, they've actually gotten off to an improbable start. The Carolina Hurricanes, yeah, they've been sliding recently as I'm making this video, but they still look like they're going to turn things around versus, the last 10 years or so. And the Coyotes, I think that they're on the up and up, if not for this year, for the years ahead. So I grouped all three of those teams together because they, and some other teams as well, have been struggling in terms of attendance. And so I want to show some love, and so if one of those teams brings home the hardware, I'm going to go out and see them and celebrate. Okay, so starting with the Atlantic Division, with the Ottawa Senators. Should the Ottawa Senators win the Stanley Cup in 2019, I will write a letter to Sharks general manager Doug Wilson, and I will request that he sign Erik Karlsson to a long-term deal if he hasn't already, and then promptly trade Karlsson back to the Senators for Cup champions Chris Tierney and Dylan DeMello. Should the Boston Bruins win the Stanley Cup? The next time that I send a parcel to Neil from Post to Post, I've done that already, I'll include a close-up framed photo of Brad Marchand's face. Not that I have anything against Neil, it's just that he's a Canadiens fan, and so his rival's the Boston Bruins. I think that'd actually be kind of funny. Should the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup? So I said that I would donate, I put a number of $250 to youth hockey in the Miami area. That is an area that will hopefully grow if in hockey participation should the Panthers win a Stanley Cup. So that's what I would do there. Now, should the Tampa Bay Lightning win the Stanley Cup, which could very well happen, I'm saying that I will buy some Tampa Bay Cup Champions apparel or merchandise, and I'll actually give it away on the show later on, in June or July. So that would be pretty cool. Now, if the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup, how improbable would that be? Well, here's what I'll do. So I will put a framed photo of Marc Bergevin in my restroom. But when I have to use the restroom and I'm doing, and I'm number one, I will be looking eye level at Marc Bergevin's face. That will be a proud moment, I believe. Should the Detroit Red Wings win the Stanley Cup, I will actually book a trip to Detroit. Yeah, that's how crazy things would be. I would actually go to Detroit. I mean, how often do you hear somebody say, like, I'm vacationing in Detroit? For the Buffalo Sabres, actually, I'd fly out to Buffalo for the parade as well. That's probably the one time in my life I'll actually go to Buffalo. I mean, I don't really plan to see the Bills anytime soon, and I mean, I'd rather just go to Canada to see Niagara Falls. Speaking of which, the Toronto Maple Leafs. I will purchase a John Tavares Maple Leafs jersey, and I will wear it outside the Shark Tank as a friendly reminder that my favorite team barely missed out on him, and later on got Erik Karlsson. So that's my pledge. Now we move on to the Metropolitan Division, starting with the New York Rangers. Should the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, I will name my firstborn son Henrik Mika Zuccarello Buchnevich Pinkerton. Yes, that is how unlikely it is that the Rangers win the Cup in 2019. I'm not expecting a kid or anything like that, but I'm just saying I will make good on my promise, should that be the case. Now, If the Pittsburgh Penguins win the Stanley Cup, and there's a chance that could happen, remember what I said about Mark Bergevin? Well, basically replace that with Sidney Crosby, so that when I have to use the restroom, basically I will be inspired to pee excellence like Sidney Crosby does. So that's my commitment. Should the Washington Capitals defend their title and win back-to-back, which is pretty rare in today's NHL, then I will put on my Capitals jersey, I have a couple, and I will do a pub crawl, and in each pub I go to, I will sing like a bard would when, proclaiming the heroic accomplishments of somebody in folklore. And I will sing a song for each Capitals hero as I hop from bar to bar. So like for example, maybe my first bar I start with a tale about Kuznetsov and the Birdman and that sort of thing. And then I talk about Ovechkin and like the OV office, and like I will have like actual songs to sing about this stuff. Should the Philadelphia Flyers win the Stanley Cup? They haven't won a cup in over 40 years. Well, do you remember in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia when the gang goes to that Phillies World Series game and Charlie is dressed up as Green Man in that green spandex suit? Well, basically what I would do is I would get a Green Man suit, except in orange for the Flyers, and I will sprint around the downtown of where I live. And yeah, I'll be judged very harshly. For the Columbus Blue Jackets, every time they score, they fire the cannon and they play AC/DC's For Those About to Rock. Well, should they win the Stanley Cup, I will record a video in which I listen to For Those About to Rock 50 times consecutively. And so I don't know what sort of reaction that will elicit, but that might be fairly entertaining. For the New Jersey Devils, I will buy a Taylor Hall Devils jersey and I will send it to the City Hall of Edmonton to remind them on his accomplishments elsewhere. Okay, now onto the Central Division. And remember, this is like the most legit division in hockey right now. So, there are 4 or 5 teams that maybe could win the Stanley Cup out of this division. So if the St. Louis Blues actually win a Stanley Cup, which they never have, I will make a themed music video to the song You Sexy Thing, because if the St. Louis Blues actually win a cup, then I can believe in miracles. So there we go. I'll wear a Blues jersey and I'll shake my groove thing. Should the Minnesota Wild win a Stanley Cup? You know what? I figured I'd go to that parade as well. See, the Twin Cities haven't won a major sports championship since 1991, and that's, across baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. So only the Minnesota Twins have a championship in the Twin Cities area. So I'll go out to Minnesota. I'll do something special there. I love to hang around there anyway. I'll probably be living in Minnesota by the time they actually win a title. So anyway, that's my idea there. The Nashville Predators. Okay, well, the Predators could actually win a Stanley Cup. I'm going to a game there in a couple of weeks. And should the Preds take home Lord Stanley's Cup, I will buy 3 pounds of catfish and I will layer it into a giant sandwich. Fried catfish, I'll fry it up and I'll eat it on camera and see how fast I can eat it. Yes, 3 pounds of catfish. I'll do that. Okay, should the Chicago Blackhawks win another Stanley Cup in the 2010s? Not the most imaginative idea, but I thought I'd feature a YouTuber here. So Nick S. Blackhawks, he runs a channel talking about the NHL and specifically said Blackhawks. I will buy you, Nick, a puck from one of the Stanley Cup games. I will find a way to get an actual game-used Stanley Cup puck, and I'll buy it and send it to you. Okay, should the Winnipeg Jets win the Stanley Cup, I will buy a white aviator jumpsuit like the fans wear there, and I will wear it around public. Maybe I'll even get like a boombox, go to like Goodwill or something, or Salvation Army, get like a boombox and like blast some sweet pop tunes from the 80s or something like that. The Colorado Avalanche, well, they play at the Pepsi Center. So should the Avs win, I will on camera chug a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi, and every time I burp, I will exclaim McKinnon. Should the Dallas Stars win a Stanley Cup, I cannot believe I'm saying this, I will buy a Roman Polak Adidas jersey.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again.
And the last division, the Pacific Division, I already said with Arizona that I would fly out to the parade. Let's talk about the Vancouver Canucks. So they're off to a really good start. I think 9-6 as I make this video. But the thing is that we're not expecting them to be anywhere near the Stanley Cup at the end of the year. So should the Canucks actually win, then I will make an offer on a house in the Vancouver area. I'm not even Canadian, but the market there is just so insane. It's more expensive than San Francisco, which I thought was like the most expensive place in the Western Hemisphere. But anyway, I will offer to buy a freaking house in Vancouver should the Canucks actually win a Stanley Cup. Okay, the Calgary Flames, who are also off to a good start, but we thought they'd be, somewhere in the mix there. You know that Calgary Sea of Red? Well, I'm going to take that to a literal level, and I'm going to buy a kiddie pool, and I'm going to fill it with water, and I'm going to put in a ton of red food coloring. And so basically, I'm going to swim in a sea of red, and maybe I'll do that in I have like a retro Iginla jersey, so I think I'd do that. Okay, the Edmonton Oilers. I will pass out flyers in the downtown where I live. I will pass out flyers that say, have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Connor McJesus? And maybe I'll Photoshop some angel wings on him or something like that. Let's talk about the Anaheim Ducks. Okay, well, if the Anaheim Ducks were to actually overcome all their injuries and make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and win, with Randy Carlyle as their coach, which I don't understand how he's still their coach, I will, for every goal that Corey Perry scores, I will film myself on camera taking a shot. So if he scores, let's say, 4 goals in the course of the Stanley Cup, that's how many shots I will take. Or maybe I should do it with every penalty that Corey Perry takes. I have to take a shot. I don't know. But anyway, I'll get pretty schnockered as a result of that. Okay, the Vegas Golden Knights, again, involving another wonderful YouTube personality. So, should the Vegas Golden Knights win a Stanley Cup, Louis from VGK Coverage, I will invite him to, in a collaboration, have a live stream event where he will be able to gloat for 30 minutes straight, looking through the cameras at me, and I cannot say a damn word. Especially if the Knights beat the Sharks, he can go on and on about how they just trampled San Jose and that Martin Jones was a real sieve out there, and I'll have to just I can't say anything. As a matter of fact, I have a rally towel from the playoffs last year when those two teams went head to head, and I will take that rally towel and I will bunch it up and put it in my mouth as a gag because I won't be able to say anything. Now, what about those LA Kings? Well, I'll take this jersey here, or maybe I'll even get another jersey. And should they win the Stanley Cup, I will customize this to say on the back, reverse sweep, and then I'll put the number 14 in there because the Los Angeles Kings, and I try to keep this buried deep down, they beat the San Jose Sharks in 2014 in the first round. They were down 3-0 in that series, and they completed a reverse sweep. So that is one of the greatest nightmares I've ever endured. Now, as for my Sharks, last but not least, I didn't really spend that much time thinking about what I would do because, I want, in that moment, should the Sharks actually win a Stanley Cup, I just, I want to have an experience that I wasn't expecting at all. I would lose my mind, especially if I was at that game. I don't know what that would feel like. Actually, I do know what that would feel like, but it's something that you don't experience very much in your life. So I really don't know what I would do. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments below. One thing I would do though is I would definitely, I don't have any tattoos. I thought about it before. I was like, oh, maybe I should get one, maybe not. But I thought to myself, well, if I ever really got one, it would have to be one that I'd want on my body forever. So if there's something I wouldn't want to erase from my body, it would be a tattoo of the Sharks. So I think that that's probably one thing I would definitely do, for sure. So I hope you had a good time watching this. I'm sorry it was a little long too. But anyway, let me know in the comments below what your big Stanley Cup bet would be should your team actually win. And I hope you guys are having an awesome time with watching this season and following it thus far. There are definitely some surprises, and I'm excited to see what's coming ahead in subsequent months. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel. Hopefully I can resume at least weekly postings about oddball hockey topics like this one, homebrewed statistical analyses, jersey unboxings like this one, and more. This has been Nick with Twisted Wrister Hockey. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and I hope to see you again soon.